Okay. And sharing my screen. Okay. Um, okay. Question is asking about the web check to spring again. Uh, uh, to reopen the. Okay, what can we do with the web check? You can use um, this characteristic to check the latency of a website. In this case, yesterday I used the sample of this website, um, the website of the Terminal of Madrid, but I could use any website. Um, and what can we do with that with the web check? We can check the latency that the time that takes that website to load, loading all the resources of the website or not. Um, we can check if the website is responding or not, if it is loading and doesn't return a not available error, just to know if it is accessible and available. With this type of module to just every response, we can retrieve numeric or string data. I didn't show yesterday because the way to extract the data is to use HTML code with regex. It could be a little difficult depending of the website. I had to check how we can extract this data of this website with more time, but I can show you tomorrow how to extract, or later if I have time in the rest, how we can extract this data, because I have to review the code of the page and look for the block of this HTML and extract this data using that block. But it's not very easy to extract. But we could extract this data and use it as the data of a module. And we can extract as the data of a module the status code of the website. The exercises ask for check if this appear in Pandora FMS welcome screen in the login, but we can use as example to check the any website reachable by our Pandora server. By our Pandora server. So I did some examples to monitor the status of the website of this website, time and date work clock. I could use any website, as I say, and we can create this type of modules. We can get the status if it is available or not, creating a module type web, um, and the way to create. I want to create again. Create module type website web module. And what can we do with this module depending of the module type that we select? Okay, we can check the latency of that website to load. Check server response is just to know if the website is available or not. Retrieve numeric and string data. The use is to retrieve as a data of the module any content of the web. I use the temperature, but it could be the text that appear here or whatever. But this data is very clear because it is changing, and it could be useful to have in a data of a module. But as I said, I have to extract the HTML code to use this as a data, and it takes some time. I need to check how to do it in this website in particular, because it's not so easy. If I need to extract the data from a website, sometimes it's easier to use the web user experience because we have a command that allow us to extract the data that we want directly. We don't have to know the HTML code of the page, and it is for me easier when we see the web analysis checks in the other course in PI. You are going to see that it is easier to extract the data of the pages and to record a transaction of a website that the user could do to monitor that the transactions. And finally, we can start the status code of the website, the status that we can start by a curl command. At the end, it is similar that using curl command to know the status of a page. Let me check what kind of how is the command with curl to start the status. One second. This. If I launch in the server and is to retrieve this status code. If we program a plugin or a command with the software agent or the endpoint installed in this machine in the server, and we launch this command and we retrieve the first line, it is the same. because we're retrieving this information, the status code of the page, using this type of model. So to create a model, just name as you want. Check time. Just select the type of the model depending of what do you want to retrieve. You want to retrieve the latency, the if the website is responding or not, if you want to retrieve data of the website, or if you want to retrieve the status code. And press on load basic, and we need to use this this line of task begin and task end. We could use jet to retrieve the HTML entire code of the website, and just use the URL of the website. We could use instead of get, in the case that we need, head or post. In the case of post, we use to program some small transactions, like if we need to do a login in a website, to retrieve after the login some page. We could use post in the case of Pandora login. We could use post to put here a username, to type here a password, and then after that post, we could do the get to another page of Pandora Pandora portal, Pandora console, after do that post. But I don't waste time doing this configuration, because I think it's more useful and easier to configure, and maybe faster. Uses the web analysis experience, the web user experience transaction. We are going to see how to configure that in another course in Pi. So to do the, more complex things that just to know the status code of a website, or if a website is responding or not, of the latency, I've used the web analysis modules that we're going to see that later, because it's more powerful. It's a more powerful characteristic. We to get the latency of the server response, we need to use the command jet. Remember that we can use jet, post, or head. We could check if a string exists or not in this page, in this URL, just to know if the string that we configure here exists or not in that URL, or leave it empty and just check if the URL is responding or not. We need to. We don't need to check if we don't want to, if it is a string or not. Check string, check not a string is another tab that check if the string that we configure here not appear. In this case, we can configure check not a string, and the string that we want. For example, languages and any languages that is not Spanish. Uh, and we check instead of the if the string exists in that page, if the check not exist in that page. For example, if we configure here Spanish as the string exists in this website, this the check should fail because the string exists in this case. This yet content advance is to retrieve content of the website. As I said, I cannot show you an example because it can be difficult to configure because I need to extract the HTML code of the page to extract the data with a regular expression. And I prefer to extract the data of a website with user experience. And just keep in mind that if you want to configure a server response module or check latency, use command jet. And if you want to retrieve the status code of the page, instead of jet, use head. Okay, because otherwise you are not going to retrieve that code. Anyway, I'm going to leave you the manual of these sections so you can see all the options we have to monitoring this, but it is overall that I explained here. It turns out that in this format I can monitor a certain block or HTML data on the company internal website. Yes, you can monitor your internal website, but if you want to monitor just if for example, when you want to monitor that this value exists or this value exists in a certain block or HTML, you cannot monitor that. You can monitor if a string exists in all the URL that you pass, not in a specific HTML block. Okay. And you can retrieve the data of you can retrieve as a data of the module. The data of the module will be the HTML block that you pass in the regular expression. That's possible, but it's not possible to configure that check if that this string exists instead of in all website in a specific block of HTML. But you can monitor that with the web user experience, but not with this kind of models, with these web models. These web models is to monitor less specific things, as if the URLs exist or not, or the status code of all the URL, all of these URL. With web analysis modules, we can check if this specific block or the HTML exists, or what is the content on this blog, or what is the content of this specific word if we want. It is more powerful, the web analysis, but we will see it later. Just keep in mind that with these web checks, it's for the entire URL. It doesn't matter if the URL is internal website or external. If the Pandora server can reach this website, you can monitor. You can monitor that website. Okay. I use an external website just to check to do an example. But for example, this is an internal Pandora server. Okay, and I can monitor if I reach that Pandora server, that internal Pandora server. Okay, with this server response, I can monitor if I reach from my Pandora server to that login page, and this is internal. Okay, but I cannot extract or I cannot monitor a specific block of HTML with this web user experience. I need to use web analysis. Web analysis is more powerful, and we can monitor in a website whatever we want and extract the data that we want, and it is in fact to extract the data from a website easier to configure these kind of modules. These kind of modules allow us to extract some data, but it can be hard to find the regular expression that we need to extract the specific data that we need. Anyway, if you are interested in monitor website, I suggest to wait to the another course, the blog of Selenium, monitoring with Selenium, and web analysis modules, because it is more powerful, and it will be more helpful for you to monitor website. Let me know, Constantine, if you have any other question. Meanwhile, I'm going to answer the other question. Does Pandora have out-of-box templates for monitoring a specific vendor's device, or do we need manually create agents for each type of device? That's a good question. We have this marketplace. In this marketplace, we have plugins to monitor specific tools or specific applications. There are plugins that can be launched as server plugins or in discovery. We will see it later when we study the discovery tool. But some of the things that we can find here in this marketplace, I'm going to share the URL, is Polysize. Polysize is a kind of template that we'll see later in the PAE course of specific vendors. For example, for Cisco, Cisco, we have some MIPS. Remember that yesterday we talked about the MIPS, that it is the translation of the three of SNMP. We have an inventory plugin. Inventory is another characteristic to extract some data of the devices that we see today. And here we have Polysite to monitor Cisco, in this case, this series of Cisco. We can, this is limited to licensed user. You have to ask for an user in this marketplace to, it comes from your, with your enterprise license. Okay, when you buy the enterprise license of the product, you you will have access here to this marketplace to be able to download all the plugins that we have here. In this case, it is a policy that we can import in our Pandora server, and these policies they contain are SNMP SNMP checks instead of creating one by one as we saw yesterday. It is a kind of a template with SNMP checks or modules that you need to monitor this specific vendor of Cisco. Okay, but out of this marketplace, we don't have another template to monitor specific vendors because to monitor the interfaces is always the same OIDs, so it can you can always add the monitor through the SNMP interface with that, or you can create a policy with just using one device as a sample to create the policy and apply that policy to all your network device that share the same characteristic. We don't see the policy yet, but we will see it in our future blogs. But keep in mind that a policy where the policy that keep in mind that a policy, going to find the policy, we move it because I don't find I'm admitting some more user. I wait in another machine. It is updated also. Keep in mind that the policy does the kind of templates where we can load some a list of modules, and we can apply that template to several agents. and when we
Uh,
modify that
Jose, I can help you. It is on monitoring. Sorry, on managing uh, and sorry, I'm loading system. Management resources and manage policy.
Okay. We move in the last version. We move here in the sources. Before it was in configuration. I
Yeah.
didn't see it because it was in another menu. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Alexander.
You're welcome.
We can create that these policy that are a kind of templates, and just create one time and apply that templates. For example, this Windows monitoring modules. We have this template with these six modules to apply to a Windows devices, and we can apply this policy or this template to the agents that we want, and all of these agents retrieve these modules, and those modules will be created. Uh, Modules, alerts, agent plugins, inventory modules, and that kind of things. In this marketplace, we can find a policy already created. Okay, we can import a policy that we can download um, from the marketplace, and it will have some SNMP modules with the OIDs created, and we just need to apply to the agents that we want to create that modules. Okay, but we are limited to the previously created policy that we can find here in the marketplace. But if we want to create some modules for the interfaces, for example, we can in a policy we can launch the wizard and create, for example, for a agent with 48 ports. We can launch a wizard through the policy, create the modules on the policy, and then apply that policy to all our switches or our network component that have that number of ports, the same number of ports. It is faster to configure that one by one, as I did yesterday. In fact, we have a plugin that scan a network device or the network device of a list that we pass. We can create a CCV file with a list of IPs of network devices, and another CCV with the checks that we want to add. And if we run that script, it will scan that network devices one by one and add the monitoring that it is responding in that moment. It is an script that we can find in this marketplace, and we can use in our Pandora installation to deploy the Office monitoring. This is the way that we have to deploy a specific vendors with Pandora FMS. You will understand better when we see these policy blocks in future blocks.
Just add some comments to Jose to you. Julia, we have, for example, For the partner in Belarus, we are made own policy and own plugin for the monitoring the tweet. For example, you know maybe this product, it's like very popular utilization for the Russian market, and we already made own plugin and our own policy for the applying and monitoring this kind of virtualization.
Okay, Alexander, thank you for your comment. Joseph, thank you for your answer. I understood.
Okay, Julie, thank you for your question. If there are no more questions, we're going to continue with the formation. Yesterday, we didn't see the SNMP traps feature of Pandora FMS because I needed my VPN to show a machine where I configured to receiving traps, and I didn't have access to my VPN. But I have access now, so we go back for a moment. And if you remember, to monitor SNMP, we have the SNMP poolings that it is the configuration that we saw yesterday to configure some modules that the server each interval asks for the information for the network devices. For example, if the server it is asking to a network device each 5 minutes if the interfaces is responding or not. And we have SNMP traps, that this is asynchronous operation to receive warning from the devices to Pandora. Almost all the configuration to monitor SNMP traps must be done in the network devices, not in Pandora server itself. Okay, in Pandora server, we can configure to receive trap, and that's all, and to alert according to the traps received. But in this case of SNMP traps, we must configure the network devices to send traps to Pandora server. Okay. In this case, the configuration on Pandora server is very simple because we only have to configure the server to receive traps. Okay, and we just need to enable one server for receiving traps. We can do it if we have the remote configuration of pandoraserver.conf enabled. We can do it from through here. The list of the server, remote configuration, and we have to enable this SNMP console. Okay, we need to enable this server or this characteristic of the server and personal update. And usually that's all that we can that we have to do. Enable the SNMP console, create or we can configure a configuration file to filter the traps that the server will receive. If we just enable and that's all, we are receiving all the traps from all the sources in our server. But we have a configuration file of the traps daemon where we can filter which sources we want to receive the traps. I don't remember what is the configuration file, but in the manual it's very easy to find and configure because it's not from Pandora itself, it's from the daemon of SNMP traps. Let me look for it. Traps. SNP traps. Here is this configuration file. It's the SNMP, SNMP trapd.conf. And for default, it is configured to receive trap for any sources. Okay, but we can configure this configuration file to receive trap from specific sources, or if we're receiving traps or SNMP or BD3, we can configure the authentication here in this configuration file. I let you the manual of these sections just to know how to configure this file in the chat. But if we want to configure receiving trap for any sources, just we need to enable this SNMP console, and that's all. What's enabled if we configure the network devices to send traps to Pandora server, we will start to receive traps, and the way to see the traps that we receive, okay, is through here in this menu: operation, monitoring, SNMP, SNMP console. Okay, this is the traps received. If we receive traps from a specific agent that we already have in Pandora, we'll see here the name of the agent. And if the agent is not created, we will see here the IP address of the server. And here, with some more, we can see the information of the trap. Okay, in this case, it is a message that tell us that this interface is changed to down. But the traps, the most common use of the traps is, for example, a firewall that sends a trap if it is an unauthorized access to that firewall, because it's a specific event that can happen or not. And when this happens, we could receive a trap saying that in that moment is done unauthorized access to the firewall or something like that. To monitor interfaces, it is more common to use SNMP pooling, but the content of the traps depends of the vendor of the device. Okay, and each vendor has their own traps. And here in this view, we can see the trap, delete, validate it. We can, with this trap editor, we can customize the trap in the case that we receive the trap with the same OID again. We can customize with a test to see here in the console, and we can configure alerts specifically for these traps. Okay, there exist MIPS to translate the traps received, but instead of use this MIP loader and load the MIP here, we need to load the MIP here in this SNMP trap editor and load the MIP here, the MIP file here in these sections. This MIP loader it is used to translate the SNMP3 in this SNMP browser, or or when we are creating the network module in the agents. But for the traps, if we want to use MIPS to translate that traps receipt, we need to upload the MIP here in this SNMP trap editor. Okay. To configure SNMP traps, we will see in the block of the alerts. To configure SNMP trap alerts, I mean, we will see in the block of the alerts, because I think you will understand the alerting system when we see the alerts. That's all for the traps. We configure the Pandora server to receive traps. We have to configure the device to send traps to Pandora server. And here in the server, we can see the traps here in monitoring SNMP console. And we can configure alerts with the traps receipt that we will see later in the block of the alerts. And there's another thing that we cannot see yesterday, that it is the BMI modules, because I didn't have access to because of the VPN, I didn't have access to device with BMI enabled. BMI is a protocol that allows us to monitor a Windows system through BMI queries with remote modules. And in the cases that we want to use the BMI, is to monitor Windows system where we cannot install an endpoint. Okay, because if we install an endpoint in a Windows device, we will monitor that device with the command line provided by the endpoint. Because with BMI, we are limited to monitor the device with these queries. Okay, but with the endpoint, we can monitor whatever we want with local commands. Okay. So to add BM9 monitoring, I'm going to close some tabs. This one also. We need to go to the agent where we want to create the BMI modules. In my case, any of them. I don't. This one, for example. And we can create BMI modules through two ways. First is using this BMI wizard. Okay, that works similar to the SNMP wizard. Let me find the data of my BMI device, and I launch the wizard to that device. Username. I did this one. In my case, I'm going to create modules to an agent with another IP address. It is possible, but usually you want to create first an agent with this IP address, and then add the modules there in that agent. We fill the username and password. A namespace is not necessary, but if you have one, you can add it. You want. And here we see, similar to the SNMP wizard, the blocks with the VNI queries that it is launched as default. There are some specific queries that this wizard launch as default. In this case, some can monitor some services. The disk, in this case, this use or the disk 3 in this Windows machine. Power supply. We can add this, for example, this model of power supply. Some processes, if they are running or not. This wizard check all the processes running in this or the processes configuring in this machine. I don't know if it is filtering by the processes running in this moment or not, or it check all the processes in the machine. The memory, total RAM use, or the CPU usage in this moment. We just have to check the modules that we want to add to our agent and press on create modules. This is a summary of the modules that will be created. We press on OK. And here we have all the VMI modules already created. It will be running when it is launched. Or we can create the modules, VM9 module, manually one by one. But in this case, I think it is faster to use the wizard. The only reason to create a module manually instead of use the wizard is if we want to configure a module with a query that it is not extracted by the wizard. Okay, but if we note this one, this module, it is just a module created like manually, but with the username, password, and query already filled in this module. This is a VMI query. There's a lot of queries that we can launch depending on the VNI protocol. Okay, and in the case that we have or we want to use a query that it is not provided by the wizard, we can create a module manually and fill with the query that we want to use. We have to use the query, username, password, and depending of the data returned by the query, maybe we have to fill this field number of the data obtained. Or key string is more strange to use, but here this field number sometimes is needed to use to configure this kind of modules. And the threshold and the data type is the same that the rest of the modules. We have generic numeric, generic Boolean, string, incremental, and incremental absolute. Okay, but as I said, we will use this type of monitoring in the cases that we want to monitor a Windows system, and we cannot install an endpoint in that machine, because otherwise we want to monitor through the endpoint. Okay, with that we finish this block, or SNMP and BMI, and we can start another block to talk about the predictive monitoring. To start using the predictive monitoring, we need to have the prediction server active. But prediction server right now, it belongs to the group or network server. So from this version, this LTS version, we won't see prediction server in this list because it belongs to the network server. But it is important to know that if we want to, no, in this case, the prediction server don't exist because it is the network server, and that's all. Okay, this prediction server is outdated because in the previous version we need to enable, but now it's not necessary. Okay, what can we do with this prediction module? We can use this prediction monitoring to configure an arithmetic operation with the data of another modules, okay, or create predictive monitoring with a kind of a little EA to know the value that should have a module depending of the previous that the module has. Okay, those are the two main kind of modules predicted that we had. Let's start with the arithmetic because it is easier to understand. We have synthetic arithmetic. It can perform arithmetic operation with the data previously obtained from other modules. We need to have another modules already created with the data, and then we can create new modules with the sum of another two modules, for example. A specific example that very easy to understand is if we are monitoring the traffic, the input traffic or the incoming traffic on a network device of an interface, and the outgoing traffic in the same interface, and we want to monitor the total traffic on the interface. If we can understand that data dial, we can create a prediction module with the sum of the incoming and outgoing traffic on the interface. And we are creating a module with the total traffic of that interfaces because it is the sum of the traffic or in and out. Okay, or we can sum or multiplication, whatever we want. We can take the average of the data obtained for another modules. Okay, the simple average. If we use the data, the average of two modules, one with data 10 and one with data 12, our new model will be the data 11 because it is the average between that two models. It is very easy. And the trend is a new kind of model before it doesn't exist. It is comparing the current average of data with the average of the previous period that we can configure, and the different and it displays the different. So we can monitor if the trend is, for example, if the trend of the last week of the data of the models, it is a percentage going up or going down. Okay, we'll understand better when we're configuring these kind of models. And in predictive monitoring, we have this capacity planning. It makes a prediction based on the time window specific by the user, assuming a more or less a linear behavior of the tailor model. This type of a predictive model allows us to know how many days we have left until the disk is full, or the number of database requests we'll have in a month's time. We continue as before. If we are monitoring the disk size, disk size, and it is increased with the time, with this capacity planning, the data of the module, it could be the days that if this is increasing the same way, how many days we have left until the disk is full. Okay, it is very less using modules about predictive monitoring. We usually use this predictive monitoring to create these services, although it is created automatically when we create a service. Okay, these services we don't need to create manually. When we create a service, this module will be created automatically, or to do arithmetic operations. Okay, that capacity planning or trend, it is more circumstantial, I think. And we're going to see how to create these prediction models. Okay. First, we are going to go to agent, where we want to create the prediction model. Okay, I am going to create some another modules to do operation with them before we start explaining this. Okay, not in this agent. I'm going to create a model with any number to sum to another number to be controlled. Endpoint model, create number 20, for example. And another with number 5, for example, or number 10. To operate with these models. Okay. To create a new prediction server module, as always, we need to go here to Modules tab, press on Create Module, and in this case, we use Prediction Module. We press on Create, and the module type we have to configure depending on the type of the data that we expect to receive. In this case, I think we use numeric in most of the cases. We're going to start with synthetic arithmetic, okay, to be the operation with another modules. We need to use in this, or we need to configure in this source module synthetic arithmetic, and we have all the operation possible: add, subtract, divide, and multiply. For example, we are going to use add. Element type module. We can use values from another modules or from a fixed value if we want. We're going to use a value from another module that I just created. We can use the modules from another agent. It's not necessary to stay to be created in the same agent where we are creating this module. And we need to select the module that we want to be the operation. In this case, my number 20. We click on our operation, and I am going to use this operation add to be the sum of this number, this module of number 20 with the other module that I created with number 10. And I add the operation, and we can subtract a fixed value or 5, for example, and I add this operation. And this module, the data of this module will be the data of this module plus the data of this module and subtracting 5 because it is a fixed value that I configure in my case. So the data will be, in my case, 25, should be 25. If I create this module, I have to set a name for the module. Prediction arithmetic 8. Okay, and if we see the data of the module, it's 25. It's 20 plus 10 subtracting 5. Okay, 25. I can add more modules to the operation or deleting my fixed value or whatever we want with this module. Remember that it is not limited to the modules existing in this agent. We can use the value of the modules of any agent in our system. It is a remote module, so it works independently of the endpoint of the agent. Okay, it's the server who is in charge to do the operation. So we don't need to install anything in the agent when this module is created. Another type of predictive module models, create, prediction. It could be the synthetic average is the simple average of the models that we want. In the case, the average for my this model and this one. Average, prediction average. And it is the average between this value and this value. Okay. In my case, they are fixed value in my models, but in production in production environments we use values of models that it is constantly change. And another prediction model could be these services. We are not use this service because that kind of prediction models will be automatically created when we create a service. Okay, we will see in the block of the services, but these characteristic were not. We never use this service option because it's not necessary. Trending model. It is an operation that compares the average, the actual average of the data of the of a model. For example, I'm going to create for this model CPU daily with percentual. With this configuration, this is comparing the average of the values of the last day of this model, the last day, because I configure the periodicity as daily. Okay, if I configure weekly, is from the last week. It will compare the average of the data of the last day from this model with the 2 days ago of this model, and the data of this model will be in this case a percentage or of the percentage of if it is increasing or not. I mean, the average of the last day compared with the average of the 2 days ago. And in the case of the average of the last data days, it is higher than 2 days ago. The data of the model will be the percentage of how much is higher of the last day with 2 days ago. Trending, patient trending. In my case, I'm not sure if this model is going to work because I don't have any data of the last 2 days. Because my machine was created yesterday. So I don't have data for the last 2 days to calculate the average with the last with that to obtain that data. So my model doesn't work. But if we have a model with more data, we can test in another machine. For example, I don't know. Mm, or this one. Sentinel. Okay. This I assume that it has data from the last one more time. Yes. Okay. I repeat the same thing in this machine. A model, prediction, numeric, trending model, the last day, present. In this case, this model is working. In this case, I created uh, this training model, pointing to a model with more data than mine, with data from a week, and I'm saying that the periodicity is daily. So for this, the training of this model in the last 2 days is that it is decreasing 0.2% of the data. If we compare, I use this model, but I didn't want to use that one. CPU load and force. Okay. Okay, in this case, I configure the trending for the CPU load percentage, and the data is 22.9. It is saying that for the last 2 days, the value of this CPU load, the average value, it increased 22.9% for the day before. That means that yesterday this machine used 22 or almost 23% more CPU than 2 days ago, because I configured daily. Okay, I hope it understand, because it's maybe it's hard to explain. But for that we use that it's trending kind of models. In production, we maybe we need to set monthly or weekly to compare the trending of the last month with 2 months ago, to see more accurate the average trending of a model itself. For example, it is useful to see if Oracle table space is increasing this size or not with the data of the last week or the last month. Okay, this block doesn't have any exercise. So you can continue to local monitoring with endpoints. Here we are going to talk about all the local monitoring that we can configure, and it is a very huge block, because here we are going to talk about all the monitor that we can configure with the endpoints. In this case, the installation of the endpoint, it is explained here, but we explained yesterday. We have the rest in 5 minutes. We're going to do the rest now before starting this block, and we start in 15 minutes to avoid stop the explication of the block in 5 minutes. Okay, so we're going to rest for 15 minutes, and in 15 minutes we come back and we start this block, or local monitoring with endpoints. This is a very interesting and a huge block to talk about. Okay, so see you in 15 minutes. I'm going to mute and switch off the camera, and I go back again. Okay, if you have any query regarding the previous block or predictive modules, ask me in the chat, and we answer when we come back. Okay, see you in 15 minutes. Okay, we're here again. Let's continue with the next block. Que talk about local monitoring with endpoints. We're ready now. One endpoint is are small pieces of software that are installed in the operating system and remain running of them to extract monitoring information and send it regularly to the Pandora FMS data server, which processes and stores them in the database. The endpoints allow to execute native command of each system in which they are installed to obtain the data we want and use them in all Pandora FMS. We already installed yesterday an endpoint in my Windows machine. To install in Linux, it is available in tar format in tarball. So it is compatible with a wide variety of Linux distribution because you only have to decompress it, the package, and just launch the installation script, and that's all. And after that, you just need to start the service of Pandora Agent. But previously, you have to install the dependencies of the agent. Yesterday, I sent to the chat the link to to the section of the manual of the installation of the endpoints. So if you follow that manual, you won't have any problem to install in any operating system. Okay. Here it explains how to install the endpoint, but we installed it yesterday, so we can avoid this. We can this step. The configuration file of the agents once installed are these paths. For Windows system, the default installation is program files, Pandora agent folder, and it is pandoraagent.conf, not agent.conf. This pandoraagent.conf. And in Linux, it's in etc Pandora, pandoraagent.conf, the configuration file. Once install the agent in Linux overall, you need to edit this configuration file in etc pandoraagent.conf and set this server IP with the IP of your Pandora server. In my case, it is the same machine where my Pandora server is installed. But when you install an endpoint in a Linux device, make sure of editing that line with the IP of the or DNS name or your Pandora server. Okay. You have to launch the installation script if you install offline. If you install online, just launch the script with the parameters that the console create for you. We remember that deploy agent, Linux, server address, these are already marked, group next, and in this case, if you launch this command, that line of server IP will be already filled when you launch the online installation script. But if you install the endpoint from the package or offline, be sure to edit the configuration file and set this server IP line with the IP of the server, and enable the remote configuration. If I remember well, it is enabled by default, the remote config, but if it doesn't, be sure that enable the remote configuration on one, so we can create new modules from the console once the agent is created. If you want to install the endpoint with online script, you just need to launch these two commands, this one, and then start the Pandora agent daemon. If you start install offline, you have to decompress the tar. First, install the dependencies, then move the package to the tar file to the machine where do you want to install. Then decompress the file, launch the install script, then edit the configuration file with the server IP, and then start the Pandora agent daemon. Okay, and that's all. Once installed, it will report automatically to the server, and it will be automatically created as we saw yesterday with the endpoint of my machine on my computer. And what can we monitor with this endpoint? We can monitor locally whatever we was able to launch via a local command. So it is almost unlimited. We have almost unlimited monitoring power with installing an endpoint, because via commands or via a script that we can launch locally in a machine, we can monitor whatever we want. Here we have some important configuration parameters that we can find in the Pandora agent.com file. Remote config, we talked about this previously. It allows us to modify the agent configuration file from Pandora console itself. Remember that remote config is enabled. All the changes that we want to do with in the configuration file must be done through the console, not manually here changing this configuration file. If I change something here, for example, I don't know, this UDP server from 0 to 1, manually here, when it contacts with the server, it will, the configuration file of the server will be downloaded, and it overwrite these changes. So every change that we want to make with configuration with the remote configuration enabled must be done through here on this remote configuration tab. Server IP to configure the IP where we want to report for that agent. Server path is the incoming for the Pandora FMS server. It is very weird to change this path because we use the path as default. But put Pandora daytime. The log file indicates the path where the log file for the Pandora agent will be saved. By default is this path in Linux system. In Windows is program file Pandora agent, Pandora agent.log is the same path of the installation of the agent. The interval of the execution we can change through the console. The debug, it enables the debug mode. It is to analyze possible problems that we have with the endpoint. If we configure a new module and it doesn't report to Pandora, and we don't know why, and we don't see any information in the main log, we can enable the debug mode, and it stop to sending information to Pandora server. It will create the XML file instead of sending to the server. It saves in a temporary folder, so you can see what XML it is creating, and it creates a debug log to see what it is doing in this on each interval. To enable the debug, just in the case that you need, just uncomment this line, debug 1, and the next interval when it reports, is the same agent, right? Or no, I activate the debug in here in my Windows. Here. Okay, I changed the line to debug 1 in the console. Then stop. The agent will start reporting to the, Pandora. Okay, and if we see the conf file here, we will see the debug enabled. If I find the line, we will see when it reports, because I restarted the incorrect agent. Services, Pandora agent. I can stop the service. Okay, I'm going to enable the debug in another agent. Debug 1. in this one. My configuration, debug. But and then restart to force changes in the in an endpoint and avoid to wait to the next interval. We need to restart the service of the agent, because otherwise we need to wait to the next interval to make the changes. Okay, debug one. Temporalist CMP. Okay. Here we can see with the debug enabled this file in the temporal folder, that it would be the XML that the agent generates and send to the server. If we see this file, this is the XML that the agent would generate and send to the server. So we can see what it is sending and debug the error that it could be with the agent in our case. It doesn't generate a debug file, but it will be generating in the next execution. But in here in Windows, I have one debug file, Pandora debug from previous execution, and here we can see what the software agent is doing to debug problems in the case that we need. Okay. To disable, you have to disable the debug here in the console and in the agent, because with the debug enabled, it stops communicating with the server. Okay, so we have to disable the debug here in the two ways. Because if we only disable the debug here in the machine, when it contacts with the server, if it is enabled here, it will be enabled again, because it will download this configuration file. And if we only disable the debug here in the console, as the processing the machine has the debug enabled in the conf, and it is not reporting to the server, it won't download the file from the server. So we have to disable the debug in the two ways. Maybe you don't need to enable the debug never in your system, but in the case that you need, just for your knowledge, that the debug exists to debug problems with and the endpoints, the endpoint models. More lines interesting in the conf file, the agent name, where we can configure the agent name of the agent created in the endpoint. Remember that in the agents we have the agent name and the alias. Okay, the alias is the name where that appear for the this agent in the console, and the agent name must be an unique name for this agent. If we let this agent name empty, it will be generate a random hash automatically. So, in fact, when at the first execution, if the agent name is empty, the agent name will be the hash. Okay, the we can look for this hash in the console to find this specific agent if we need to. Okay, and the alias that it is the name of the base in the console. We can change the alias in that configuration file. But if we change the alias or any parameters through here to the console or the interval, for example, here, the address, the alias, the group or the interval through the console, as the remote configuration is enabled, it will be changed in the configuration file. So it's not necessary to change these parameters in the configuration file manually. We can change through the console and that's all. It explained how the remote configuration works. I already explained, so it is not necessary to explain again. Just remember that if the remote configuration is enabled with remote config 1, make the changes always through here, through the console, not through the configuration file, installing the machine, because otherwise the change will be overwritten. It's the same. And the most interesting part, how to create local modules and what we can monitor with these local modules. Okay, so to create local modules, obviously, we have to, the first step is to install a software agent in a machine, and we need reports to Pandora server, and the agent will be automatically created. In my case, I'm going to do the test in this agent. We can see very easy if an agent comes from a software agent installed, because here in this screen, resources manage agents, we will see the remote configuration here icon. Okay, so it is saying that those three agents are remote. This one is not coming from a endpoints install. It is the auto monitoring agent created by Pandora server. And these two agents, this one and that one, are created because we install an endpoint in a machine. So we can press here and edit the remote configuration directly, but it is not usual to change the remote configuration manually through here, because if we want to add new modules, we can add through here, through modules tab, and if we want to change another thing of configuration, we can change here in this setup tab. If we want to change the interval of this agent, we can change here. instead of going here and change the interval here, because it is easier just to go here and change here. Okay, so to create new models, we need to go to Models tab. I'm going to delete this one. Press on Create Model and select model type Endpoint Model. This is the first one, the mark as default. I'm going to press on Create. Okay, and here we have all the model types that we have already seen in previous blocks. Numeric, Boolean, string, incremental absolute, asynchronous, and keep alive. Keep alive, I remember that it is a special type of model that it is only for endpoints model. That it is in normal status if the server is receiving the XML file to update the modules of this agent, and it will change to critical if the server stop for twice the interval of the agent, like if it is going to unknown status. But in this case, this model will change to critical if it stops receiving the XML file for twice the interval of the agent. It is a kind of monitor that just to know if the agent it is reporting to Pandora server or not. Okay, but in our case, for to do an example, we can configure generic numeric. And here we have the data configuration, that it is the most important thing of this kind of models. To fill this data configuration, I recommend to do press here in load basic, because it is the main basic configuration on a endpoint model. Okay. We need to set a name for this model. For example, a number, and it will be automatically changed here. We can change here also in this block, and it changed here also. Okay. This block always have to begin with this tag, model begin, and must finish with this tag, model end. Okay. Model name is always necessary. Model type is always necessary. It we change here. Okay. Look that the model type is not the same that the model type here. Generic numeric is numeric data. Generic Boolean is generic proc. Generic string is generic data string. Generic incremental is generic data inc. Absolute is generic data inc apps. Asynchronous proc data is async proc. Okay, but it changes automatically when we change here. So we can change where we want. This is the task for the thresholds. If we change here, it is also changed here. Okay, so we can delete if we want these tags, and it is automatically filled. Okay, and the module exec is the most important line here in this data configuration. This line, it is the command that will be launched in the machine where the endpoint is installed. I mean, it is like a model of an example is, I don't know, count the files that we have in a TMP folder, for example. Okay. If we launch this command, the output of this command is this one. Is all of this. So it would be a string. This not valid to count the files here. If we have to count, we can do it through this command. Okay. So the command that we want to launch, it needs to be configured in this module exec tag. Okay, so here I'm configuring a module that launch uh, um, command in the machine when the endpoint is installed, and the command that will be launched for this module is this one. Okay, there's an example to count the files that exist in this folder. Okay, number of files in TMP. Then I can press on create, and we have to wait to the next interval, the next contact of the agent to see the module created. Okay, because it is the interval where when the machine contacts with the server and see if we have new modules created and apply the changes to the modules of the agent. If we don't have to wait, we can restart the Pandora agent daemon on this machine to force the agent to contact with the server. So if we wait a few seconds, here, this contacting, and look my new module that it is created. Number of files in TMP with a number of 73. It is the same result of this command. It is uncritical because I configure the critical threshold to go critical if it is more than 13. Okay, so the thing is that we can monitor with endpoint installed in a machine. It is limited to the scripts because this execution could be the execution of a script. And all the things that we can launch via commands. Keep in mind that we need a command or execution of a script that returns only one data, only one number. Okay, because our type or module type is generic data, so it is expecting only one number. Okay, the data of our check must be only one number. If our command returns more than one number, in my case, this module is not going to work because it is expecting only one number. Through agent plugins, to these agent plugins, we can create with just one execution more than one module at the same time. But it is another thing that we will see in future blocks. The basic charta is module begin, module name, module type, module exec, module description is optional, and module end. Okay, this is optional always, but these tags are mandatory. Module name, type, and module exec. Module exec we can change for another things that we're going to see right now. But the name and the type, it is mandatory to stay in to be configured in any module that we want to configure locally. Local module examples. If we want to check the status of a service, we can do it with this command. In Linux, in Windows is different, but in Windows we have a specific tags to monitor if a service is running or not. We'll see it. With this command, we're launching the processes running in this Linux machine. We filter by the process MySQL. We avoid the line of the grep, the grep, the grep command line. And if the process is in the list of the processes already running, it means that my MySQL service is running. Another way to monitor if a service is running in Linux is launch this command, start to MySQL. Grep this line that it is show only if it is active. On the contrary, it says stop and count if that line exists. Okay, this is another way, another command to monitor if a service is running or not in a Linux system. We can use this command to create a new endpoint model, service MySQL. We can use in this case generic Boolean because we are expecting the data 1 if the service is running, and it will return no lines or the data 0 if it is not running. So load basic. We don't don't need the threshold lines. So we only need the name of the module, the type, and the module exec line. And when it is executed, the data of this module will be 1. If we see the remote configuration file, all the modules that I am adding will be added at the end of this configuration file. If I want, I can copy a module here and configure a new module, adding at the end of the configuration file, like here, instead of through this modules tab. So this is useful in the case that we want to add more than one modules with a very similar configuration. Maybe it could be faster than creating one by one. Okay, but two ways work. System restart Pandora again to see the two new modules created. And the next communication right now. Service MySQL and Service MySQL 2. It is created. Look here, this tab, and MySQL 2. I created this module, this check, adding at the end of the remote configuration file here. Okay, so you can use the way that you want to create new modules. Okay. We have an optional tabs in the endpoint modules. That it could be the conditional monitoring and the schedule monitoring. This condition monitoring is not common to use, but sometimes is useful. Okay, we can use post condition or preconditions in these modules. Post conditions are commands that are executed after the module has been executed. Okay. Let me remember how this works. Okay. This condition, there are commands that are executed after the module has been executed. Okay, so when we are configuring these endpoint modules, we can add this line with the condition to launch this command. I mean, in my case, I am monitoring with this module that the MySQL is running or not. Okay, I can add a post condition with module condition. Then I have to add the condition depending of the data of this module. In this case, it is saying that the data of the module has to be minor to 20. If the data of this module or the data of this command, that it is the execution of this screen of this script, it is minor to 20, launch this command. And if the data of the launch of this script it is between 90 or 100, launch this command. In my case, I can set module condition. If the data of my module is 0, it indicates that my service is not running. So the command that I could launch in my service is not running is try to start my service. Okay. I'm entering with this module. do this execution, and if this execution, the data of this execution is 0, launch this command. I can also launch a script. This example is launching a script in the same path where the software agent or the endpoint is installed. We can do this and telling that if the execution of this scripts, the execution of this script that will be the data of the module is -220, launch this script. And if the execution of this script that will be the data of the module is between 90 or 100, launch this other script. We can add the module condition that as many as module condition as we want. In my case, what it sends is if the output of this command that will be the data of my module, it's 0, it indicates that my SQL is not running. So try launch this command to start my service. Okay. And that command will be only executed if it is accomplishing the condition, and the condition is that the data is 0 in my example. Okay, my condition is 0. The precondition runs before the module, and if the precondition is not met, the module is not executed. Okay, so in this example, we are telling that with module precondition, before launching this script that will be the data of the module also, before launching this script, launch this script, and if the output of this script is more than 90, then execute this script. And if the execution of this script is more than 70, launch launch the module. In my case, in my example, I am going to create another module. Endpoint module. The TMP files. Load basic. We're going to count the files in TMP. Yes, and with module precondition. Okay, in this example, the module exec, the data of my module is going to be this this command. Just count the files in TMP folder. With this middle precondition, I am telling that if this condition is met, then launch this module exec and update the data of my module. So if the number of files in TMP is more than 70, then launch this command. Otherwise, do not execute the module. This case is not, it makes no sense. I am telling that it only execute the module if the number is more than 70. But we can configure the whatever we want. We just have to tell that all the precondition must be met if we want that the module is executed. For example, if I configure this, these two module precondition cannot be met at the same time because the number of files in CMP cannot be more than 70 and less than 70 at the same time. Okay, or it is more, or it is less, or it is equal. But I no configure equal. Okay. In this case, this module only be updated or launched when the number of files in TMP it's equal of 70, because it's the only way where when we met the two preconditions that we set. Okay, but just keep in mind that module precondition are conditions that have to be met before the module is executed. If the precondition in all precondition are not met, the module will not be executed. Okay, and the data of the module will not be outdated, and so on. In this case, in the case of the examples, it is launching a script, okay, but it is waiting for the data of this module. It will be the output of this script, okay. But to launch this script, these two conditions has to be met, okay. And finally, the schedule monitoring. Schedule monitoring is just a way to configure a cron tab for a specific modules. We can use a cron tab not only to a local or endpoints modules. We can configure a cron tab also to a remote modules, the modules that we want. Okay, but it is explained here in local modules. To configure a cron tab, we need to go here to intervals and set a cron tab here. Okay, with this cron tab, we are telling that this module of service MySQL 2, we want only be executed all the days of the week and the month, and the week of and the month. This module will be executed from this hour to this hour of the day. Okay, from 8 a.m. to 12 a.m. Will not be executed, and the status between that hours is not going to be unknown if it is not executed, because it has a cron tab configured. Okay, I think it's very easy to understand. The cron is similar to the cron tab in Linux with the same parameters. And we have specific modules for Windows, for endpoints configured in Windows systems. Okay, it is just to monitor processes and services in Windows in a easier way. To configure that modules in easier than with the command of Linux that we have to do the PSAUX and filter by the process. We have a way to configuring process monitoring and a services monitoring, a service monitoring. To configure that, instead of use module exec to monitor a process, we need to use a module proc and then the number of the process. And the service is almost the same, but instead of module exec, we need to configure module service and the name of the service. Okay, we're going to test in my Windows agent. In my Windows agent install in my machine. Create a module, create an endpoint module, service, no, Pandora agent. The type could be generic Boolean because we are expecting to receive the data of 1 or the data of 0 if it is not working. And here in data configuration, we can avoid the three scroll lines and module Excel line. We're using give me a second because there's someone trying to enter to the meet. Admit. First, we need to know the number of the service that that we want to monitor. In Windows, if we access to the service view to see all the services, we can open the service that we want to monitor if it's running or not. And here we have the name of the service. Okay, so we need to copy that this name and then use the tag instead of module exec, module service with the name of the service that we copied with the type generic Boolean, and that's all. That's the way to monitor if a service is running or not in our in this agent, in this endpoint installed in my Windows machine. Remember that module service and module proc are available only for Windows system. If you use module service in an endpoint installed in a Linux machine, it's not going to work. Okay, it is only for Windows. At the next execution, my module will be created. Okay, and finally, we have also this module watchdog that we can configure on yes. It is just to add these two lines, module async yes and module watchdog yes. And what those land does is that if it detects that the service is not running, it tries to run the service automatically. Okay, it's not only monitoring if this service schedule is running, that it is detected that this service is not running. It tries, the agent tries to run this service automatically if it is not running. Okay, we only have to add these two lines in the configuration of our module. In my case, I can add here module async yes and module watchdog yes. Okay, and in my case, if it detects that this service is not running, it tries to run the service automatically. Okay, the module will be shown as critical at least one time until it is restarted, but it tries to restart automatically without an user intervention. For Windows, we have, or for Linux, sorry, we have these specific modules: module CPU proc, and the number of the process, and module memproc and the number of the process to return the CPU usage of a specific process or the memory consumption of a specific process. Okay. And for common modules for Windows and Linux is module free disk, module CPU usage, and module free memory. Okay. If we create an endpoint module using this, free memory, dot basic, module exec is, instead of module exec, is module free memory. Okay. And generic data, and it is common to Windows and Linux system, but only we only have these tags to use instead of module exec. In any another case, we use a module exec. So module exec is the most common use in an endpoint module. Okay, this is just for this to monitoring the CPU or memory more easier and something like that. But in other cases, just used module exec to configure a module. And here we have this exercise to create monitor in the endpoint install in your Pandora server. Okay, but we are going to do this exercise when we return for the lunch break, because now we have an hour to lunch before we continue the training. So we're going to rest for lunch for 1 hour, and at the return, we finish this exercise. Okay, we correct, and we continue with the formation. And as always, if you have any questions regarding this block, because this is very important, ask me when we return for the lunch break. Okay, I'm going to stop the recording and I launch the recording again when we return for the lunch and the last break.